Okay, Laura, if you'll give us an update on the
Progress on Progress Road?
yeah, progress on Progress Road.
Okay.
Wait a minute, why come you're not gonna talk about Clear Creek? No. I didn't know we made that decision. Go ahead, Carl.
No, we haven't.
We have not made that decision. I'm just saying that progress has been made on Progress Road. I didn't took it out.
That's good, that's good. Go ahead.
Of course, there was a design meeting last night that was well attended and good comments, and that'll be brought out on the unfinished business. I'll leave that with Charlie. And we are still working on the right-of-way, and I'll refer to Carlina to give us an update on that right-of-way with the railroad. Carlina.
Yes, we are in contact with the attorneys for the railroad, and he has done some research on it. He's verbally told us it doesn't look like it's a problem, but we don't have anything in writing, and he's copying David on everything with that. And so when I emailed him asking after 4th of July week, we're ready, they know we're, in a hurry to get it, I got an automatic reply that he's on vacation until the 15th. So he'll be back in the office next week. So.
He's a Patriot guy.
He's a, yes, and the other, there are two names. It's a sort of a Patriot and,
Georgia Northeastern Railroad?
right.
The old
Kind of
name.
two different names.
The old name, okay,
Yes.
okay.
But he's the guy. Right away.
Gotcha.
So,
Thanks.
yeah.
And I don't have anything else unless somebody's got questions.
Well, I understand that we found a possible source for some dirt if we need.
Yes. There's probably enough red clay in Gilmer County that we could probably fill in a flat spot.
In terms of having made the decision, we haven't made that decision yet. I think what we're doing now is just basically the due diligence to see if that would be a good decision.
Exactly. That's
And-
what we should do.
Yeah, and right now, the railroad access is the critical part, I think. It's the only thing we don't have direct control over.
Right.
We can build up the land, we can do this or that, but we can't make them give us access.
Carlene, when you talk to them, have they indicated, because I read in some of the other crossing business stuff, that they typically ask the city or the county or the company, if it's a private crossing, to pay something, if not all, of the construction cost or that, not the maintenance of the crossing, but the real things. Can you ask if there's any cost involved as well as?
Oh, I think
I
when
would
we get
say-
receive an agreement, we'll have an identification of the costs that'll be associated with and the party that's
I just want to make sure we do.
And I mean, we'll gather all that information
Yeah.
and agree.
Just to make sure, because
Yeah, I want y'all to have full disclosure. I
Yeah.
don't want no hidden surprises.
But as I drive around now, I have gotten to where every railroad across
yeah, I know, me too, Charlie.
And I gotta tell you, the majority of them don't have the flashing lights and the little arms, they just have the little cross.
No.
And I'll put up all the signs they want.
Yeah, especially that Maddox, right there, just right up the
Yeah.
road, Maddox and Progress.
Joanne?
So this is on the location of the pool,
Yes.
which is where?
From the soccer fields, off Progress Road, Soccer Field Road. If you walk across Veterans Bridge, soccer fields are on the left, this property's on the right. And
If you're familiar, excuse me, Jonathan, if you're familiar where the ETC Service Center is, it'll be right behind the ETC Service Center off of Progress Road. And what we're discussing is we have to cross the railroad to get to the property.
Okay, any other questions on the pool project? If not, we're at citizens wishing to speak. Well, I do, but it's under unfinished business and citizens wishing to speak is above that, so.
I thought you said they moved that up over, citizens wishing to speak.
No, we put it under unfinished business, which is the first thing behind citizens wishing to speak on the agenda.
I might have a question during that, and I hope you'll allow that, but on citizens wishing to speak, let me go back to the pool for just a minute on Progress Road. Is there a report on the survey as far as, as far as flood zone, things like that that we've heard? Is there a survey report on that property yet?
We do have that, and I can get you a copy.
Are you incorporating that in the cost of the railroad and the feasibility and everything once you get all those numbers together?
Yeah, when I was talking about we're doing our due diligence now to try to make that decision,
Right,
the two primary factors in that are the railroad crossing and floodplain.
got it, okay. On the railroad crossing, is that Patriot Rail down in Florida, is that what you're?
It's Patriot and
Northeast.
I didn't know that they were, I didn't think they were based out in Florida.
they are
They
Jacksonville.
are? Patriot Rail out of Florida.
And I can,
Does
yes.
what's his name in Marietta still have something in it, you know what I'm talking about?
Wilds,
Yeah, Wild Spears.
So,
yeah, he's relinquished his ownership.
Yeah, I understand, but there's not a, like, something in that deal with Patriot? Has he still got something as far as the line, or is he 100% out? Wild?
We will explore that.
You know what I'm saying? All right, because I thought when he did sell the line to Patriot Rail, there's something in there with Wild Spears, but I don't know myself.
I don't know the details of sales versus leasing versus whatever.
Well, you buy the line, you buy the railroad, it's so convoluted. When he sold that up there in Blue Ridge, I spent a couple days reading up on it, so.
Well, who we're working with now, Brian, who we're working with now is the attorney
Right.
for the railroad. So I'm gonna kind of leave it up to him to figure out what they have to do on their end to be able to allow us to
I get
have
it.
that crossing. Joey? Oh, were you done, Brian?
Well, if you're gonna talk about design next, I'm on the property. Is there a third piece that you're talking about? I know there's Clear Creek.
We don't have a third property at this point.
Okay, so has the Clear Creek, is that complete between the county and the school system, though, the Clear Creek property? Is that,
That
like,
is-
all of that is done, you own that now, or?
That is completed.
The deed is with them and they approved it, I don't know.
They did approve it at
I
a
think
meeting.
that the one or more of the parties that were required to sign that, because they take their summer
Right.
break at the first week of July, I'm not certain that it has been officially signed, it has been approved.
It has been officially approved and they're ready to sign it.
Yeah.
28 acres or 20,
So 29, I think.
29?
I've got a question. I mean, so are you saying that it's still possible that you might try to locate the pool there?
It's still possible. It's not, in my mind, it's not preferable. But I'm a big fan of the proposed property across from the soccer field. If it turns out that because of one issue or another, it's just not feasible, the only other option we currently have would be Clear Creek. So, yeah, it's possible, but it is not preferable.
And,
There are differing opinions on that.
There are differing
That's okay.
opinions.
That's all I need to know.
and if you don't locate the pool there, what's the county going to do with that property? Okay.
There'll be additional ball fields. We will have any number of recreational opportunities, but primarily additional ball fields will be placed there. We're removing some ball fields from River Park now. We're moving all ball activities from River Park with the exception of T-ball from River Park over to Clear Creek. So we'll be building, not immediately, but we will be building at some point softball fields, other things like that.
You're talking about the Clear Creek property, correct?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
The new 29 acres.
So there, and it's open for other possibilities. You know, one of the things we'd like to have at a river park is, or that we've been asked about, is a dog park. We may decide that that would be better suited to the Clear Creek property, who knows? Right now, space is pretty tight out at River Park and very finite. So we are anticipating not a lot of anything in the first couple of years or so, but we are anticipating some substantial growth out in that area over time.
Well, whenever this took place, which was a year ago or something,
When they,
I mean, what did the county have to give the school board?
for the property, nothing. They volunteered it.
We just had to ensure that we're gonna put ball fields.
Yeah,
or do
yeah,
something
there's a-
with it
there's a
within
recreational
5 years,
purposes.
right?
Yeah,
5
we
years.
have to, I think it's within 5 years, if we don't put anything on it, it's a reversion clause. But we did not purchase it or anything, they volunteered it, and we have no money invested in it, other than the initial survey for the deed.
All right, if we're still on citizens wishing to speak, because he did a full report and we're on citizens wishing to speak, we're gonna go to design. I don't want to switch up. I want to ask, just quickly while I'm on that, where are we at on an impact study for the new school out there at Clear Creek on Yukon Road? Where is all of that at as far as, that's been a while since it's just been brought up. Are we doing an impact study on Yukon Road right now?
Well, the only thing that I can report to you and to the commissioners is I was contacted some months back by a Mr. Sheriff with the Board of Education asking for assistance on a traffic study.
Right.
And I have tried on numerous occasions to make contact. I personally have been to the Board of Education office 3 times, left my card, asked Mr. Sheriff to call me back, and I've yet to get a call. So,
Well, Yukon Road obviously is a county road, so anything with impact will fall back on the county as far as that, because if I'm correct, school is not obligated to put any funds in the highway or county roads, improving county roads. So whatever that results in, because they're going ahead and building their school, I mean, you know, maybe not put a shovel in the ground yet, but they're going there. We're taking 29 acres, we might put a pool or more activity. So obviously there's some things, I just wanted to know where they were at on that.
that's all I know about it. I don't know anything
That's
else.
something that you'll, at this point, have to ask them, because as Jim said, we just don't have the information right now.
All right, on the transfer on Progress Road, that property, like, the River Park, is, just so I can learn, is that annexed, like Gilmer owns that, although it's within the city of LJ surrounding, but when that was done, like, on this property here, it's East LJ's property, correct? If
No,
you-
No, it's not at this point.
That's not correct.
East LJ has made an offer to partner with us and pay for the purchase of the property.
Also, whose property is it right now?
Private.
Do you have the name, David?
Amy Simon?
Well, they've offered to partner
The
to purchase
property
the
is-
property,
is
but in the
available.
word partner, they would be the money for the property.
Yes,
Or
that is,
we're not the money for the property,
that is correct.
but they're a partnership. So they will
Well-
have stake in this?
No.
They will have no stake in it. The only stipulation that they have, they have an interest in not having this put out at Clear Creek. They would like to have it more.
Right,
in
yeah.
Canada, as we all would, most of us. So they are willing to reimburse us the cost of purchasing this property if the pool can be placed at that location. The stipulation is that we also will agree that at some future point, the recreation center that we're on hoping to have one day will go at that location, at that site as well. It does not obligate us to build a rec center in any specific period of time, just that when we do build it, that would be where it would be built.
So you'll have an agreement of use, just like the school says, hey, here's 29 acres, but we want ball fields and, you know, we want you to develop. That's all good. So there's gonna be an agreement, they're gonna come up with the money.
Right.
If you decide after the survey and railroad easement there. They're gonna come up with the money, your agreement back, just like with the school is, it will be used for X
For the pool initially and for the rec center,
Right.
wherever that's built.
in the future.
Right.
And then David, we will actually, the county will actually own the property, they won't have ownership stake.
That's correct.
correct.
Got it.
Anything else under the citizens wishing to speak? If not, we will go to unfinished business and the pool design, and at the end of that would probably be a good time for us to take a little break. We have a proposal for a pool design. I think it was met very favorably. The only real issue in terms of significant change was the original design that was proposed had 8 lanes, 6 of which were 6-foot lanes, and the other 2 were 8 or 8.5 foot, I forget. And the request was made by the people at the meeting that we simply have 8 7-foot lanes rather than 6 smaller ones and 2 larger ones, that we just sort of spread it out. That will result in an overall increase of about 1 foot of width of the pool. So we have asked the designers to, utilizing the same design, just change those parameters. The design is basically, I guess, 4 phase. There is the pool, that's referred to as a competition pool, but in my mind, it's just the pool.
I agree.
That's what has to be built. Now, along with that, we'll have to have the changing rooms, restrooms, and concession stand. So what has to be in place first will be that structure with the dressing rooms, bathrooms, and the pool itself. Now, if there's money, once that's completed, the next most desirable thing is we would like a cover on that pool. And we saw a bit of a picture of what that cover would look like. And essentially, it's got garage door-like structures on 3 sides all the way around, such that when these are raised, it pretty much just opens this whole area up. Or you can put them down and then it's enclosed. The heaters for the pool will be the essentially brand new heaters that we've got at the old pool right now that were never used other than for testing. They will be moved over. So if there's money after the pool is built, the next thing will be we want to put that cover on it. If there's money after that, the next thing is the wading pool. And if there's money after that, the next thing is the splash pad. Now, obviously, at some point, there's not going to be money after that. So what we've got to do is get as much of that as we can with the money that we've got to work with. Now, if, for instance, we can't cover that pool, we can just get the pool. My position on that is I'm going to come back the following year and ask for funding for the cover. We want the covered pool, we need to have a covered pool. Not just for competition, but we've got a lot of seniors that have reached out to me, saying that this is something that would be very important to them to be able to utilize year-round for the therapy, some therapy that they need. So the cover is important. We hope we can get it up front. If we can't get it up front, then I'm going to try to come back and get it the following year. But once you get past the pool and the building with the bathrooms and dressing rooms, everything else is kind of in play. The cover, the wading pool, and the splash pad. We need all those to make this complete project, but we don't have to have all those at the same time. What we've got to have initially is the pool and the dressing room and so forth. So that's kind of where we are. I will be asking tomorrow night for approval for this design. If we get that, then we can start looking at cost figures. And we'll know a whole lot better, just exactly what we can do in terms of covering the wading pool and so forth. Now, did I leave anything? No. That said, okay, Brian,
Why is there no dive tank?
liability.
Is that it? Is that it? Let me ask that. I just, obviously, if you ask, if there was somebody in the county that was an Olympic diver and there was 12 people in there asking for a dive tank, would there be a dive tank? I know you don't want to answer that.
I don't mind answering that at all, Brian.
Will it be a dive
There
tank?
probably would not be a dive tank because
Our
when you
community's
say dive
cutting
tank,
those
I
out.
assume you're talking about the diving board.
A dive tank, I mean, there's a lot of communities, where I grew up, we had a dive tank, we had a competition pool,
You're
we
gonna have
had
to
a
define
kiddie
dive
pool,
tank
we had a
for
dive tank with diving boards, is that a liability now? Are they not?
Okay, you're,
Can I go into that also? Because I've
yeah,
done-
but first I want to understand what a dive tank is.
Well,
I'm
I mean,
just
Larry
saying
could
a
probably
diving
say,
board.
I'm just saying we call it a dive tank, and not that I could dive, if I'm gonna get that clear.
What is a
But,
dive tank?
I mean,
I assume he's talking about a diving well that's 12 feet deep that has diving boards that you
Right.
can dive
Right.
into
Okay.
safely.
There will not be that.
okay.
For one thing, the cost will be prohibitive, but, in speaking with the folks that we have asked to do the design, there are some large liability issues with that, and
Okay.
I believe most counties now are declining to do that. So to say that we won't have that essentially is the norm and not the exception. But at the current time, we do not plan to have that, and if we had an Olympic diver in the county, we still could not have that.
All right.
And I'll tell you, I did a little further research on that, and one of the big reasons that the counties are not doing that is because that takes up so much space. It's less play area or less or water aerobics area in your pool. Now, if, for the pool that we have that's however many square feet, the design, about half of that, or almost half, would have to be deep end for the diving board.
No.
Right.
If we use the
No,
exact structure.
no,
Now,
you don't have to take out of what we've already got.
so you're, but we could do in addition to, is that what you're talking about? Okay,
Right.
so my thoughts of not having it was this, I like this design because it gives us more actual space to do, for more kids to play, for more adults to do classes, for more swim lessons, for more just activity in this. And then if we had more money, enough money to do an extra area that was a dive thing, then you go into liability, but for the money that we have, this makes the most sense to me of this, to use this amount of space and this amount of money for the needs of our community right now.
I don't know how much money we're talking. Anybody have a thought?
Well, we're going to have to approve the design so that we can get the estimates.
But you're saying it's too expensive, but I don't know what that means. For a diving.
I feel
area.
like, we know that we already had a $1.2 million quote 3 years ago for what we thought we
Well, that
wanted.
number is fiction, but
Right,
that's okay.
right, but we know-ish.
No, we don't know.
Well,
Well,
that's what we've been told. So my thought is that
I don't know, I'm
Cool.
sorry, I know you know, but I don't know.
well, I'm just going by what,
Here's the
I
thing.
just don't know.
When you ask somebody what's this gonna cost us, their question is, what do you want? I can't tell you what it costs till you tell me what you want. We have to approve the design. You know, we have to vote on this bill so that we can know what's in it. But we have to approve the design so that we can
I think we
know
got
what
a
the
chicken and
experts.
egg problem, but I hear you, that's okay. Now,
Jolene, what?
let me ask, let me finish that little quick discussion. Back to the diving question, or the, whatever you call that, tank.
That's just what we wanted as kids. At the community pool, we had a big place with 3 diving boards.
I believe the deep end. I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, David, but I believe the liability for anything that happens in the pool, we actually state and we have signs and it says we're not liable. Is that correct?
Well, it's the matter of the
Except
liability
if
insurance
we-
cost. I do not know the difference between the cost of having a deep end versus the cost of not having a deep end. But y'all still have responsibilities. You got lifeguards that'll have to be in be there at the pool, you're still gonna have a liability. But those are costs that haven't been discussed. You don't necessarily have to have the boards. The deep end can exist to allow the children to jump into the deep end without the boards, and that's how a lot of pools have migrated to avoid that liability that's associated with the board itself, or the high dive itself.
How do you do a cannonball to splash the girls if you don't have a dive?
You get a running start.
Okay, guys, I want to hear what Joey has to say.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know what the difference is in the cost either, and I don't know how many times you all have been to our actual pool, but I've been there a lot, taking, my granddaughter. And if you watch what the kids do with the pool, I understand how wonderful it is to have swimming lanes, but I've never seen anybody swim at our pool. They all stand in long lines to go off the diving board. That's the fun. And to just have swimming lanes seems pretty boring. Now, I know, I like the adult aerobics classes and whatever, and I think that's really great, but it's like, what are we really building? And if there isn't a cost to have a deep end, I think at least it should be considered. But also, when you pay your money, you say that you're now responsible. I mean, if the diving board falls off because we didn't keep the bolts,
Oh, yeah, that's
done,
negligence.
then that's our responsibility. But a kid that gets hurt diving, you got a certain responsibility in life, that, if you jump in the water, hopefully you can swim. Now, I have jumped off of a diving board when I was young and couldn't swim, but I figured I could get to the edge, and I did it over and over and over, but I could not have swam the length of the pool, but I could jump from the diving board and make it to the edge.
Let me mention too, when we talk about the swimming lanes, what we're actually really just talking about is the width of the pool and where the hardware is to run the, what do you call those?
Those ropes that
The
are,
ropes.
yeah, to make
Lane
lanes.
Lane lines?
Lane.
Lane lines, okay. But those lane lines won't be there all the time. I mean, it's not.
I looked at
They'll
it,
be
the article I read it was, I looked at the design,
Yeah.
and the article I read it was called a competition pool, go from 4 foot,
They
5
refer
foot.
to it as a competition.
Well, maybe whoever wrote that article, you ought to talk to them.
Well, no, that's the way
I
the
think you
designer
mentioned that.
refers
Oh,
to
okay,
it.
that's how we got that.
But I mean, that's what was referred to, and it goes from 4 to 5, and, and then I've seen all the comments on social media, some want shade, and I get it, and some want this, and like, and I'm gonna say this, like a wish book, they kept adding to it on social media, and I'm just getting in and say, well, why are we not if we're going to, I think all of you know, I'm not in favor of building the pool, but if we're gonna go through with it, okay, why don't we have diving boards? Because I'm just like Joanne, as a kid, those things were, I mean, you had the tall one where the kid tried to dive and everybody had to yell, go ahead and get down because they were chicken. I'm sorry, we lived at the pool in the summer, right? You got the medium when you got the low one.
And
I'm
you do the
just saying.
cannonballs,
But
which is what I did.
If we're gonna have this, if we're gonna do this, I mean, either make it to where the competition pool, I'm just saying because that's what it was called, okay? But make it to where the competition pool could be feasible, diving boards on the side, they won't upset, I don't know.
Is there gonna be a sliding board?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
there is.
And it's got a-
Two of them, actually.
Yeah.
And in my mind, that's kind of a compromise between nothing and a diving board.
Right.
With a sliding board in the middle. It's fun, kids like it, but it's not a diving board. And they're just similar to the diving board we have there now. I think it's proposed for two, one larger, one smaller,
Slides.
one bigger kids, one smaller kids type.
Right.
So there will be recreational opportunities in that competition pool. It just won't be a diving board. And if I may, I don't know the exact cost of a diving well, but you are significantly increasing the amount of water in the pool because
I
you're
get
going
it.
12 feet deep
Right.
and it's roughly 30 by 20, 25 feet. So that whole surface area being 12 feet deep, you're significantly increasing the amount of plaster, the amount of construction, the amount of everything, including the water, which has to be filtered. So that has to be factored in the filter costs and the heater costs and all those things. So you're significantly increasing the cost by putting in a 30 by 25-ish, 12 foot deep diving well. And so a compromise is to put in a small section where you have 2 slides, and it adds, I don't know the exact dimensions of the slide area, but it looks to be 6 feet by 12 feet-ish, give or take, without me putting a ruler on it. And it can be done at 5 feet deep, which is the existing depth of the pool.
And I
So
know-
the cost is significantly different between just having the recreational slides versus the diving well.
And my understanding is that from my own childhood, it's not like your home pool where you go from 5 feet to 9 feet. To have a diving area, you actually have to have a separate area off of the competition pool or the main pool.
So
that
nobody can
is
swim
deeper.
their way and stuff.
So nobody can swim in your way, it's blocked off, and usually, for my community pool, it was half the size of the regular competition lanes. So you're talking, in order to have diving, you're talking about adding another half of a whole swimming pool that's deeper than the rest of the pool to accommodate a couple of diving boards. And if you're talking about a high board and a low board, you're actually talking about increasing the depth, because the higher your board goes, the deeper the well has to be. So that needs to be, I think that people are thinking that we can just throw boards on one end of the swimming pool and you can have swimming. You cannot do that. It is unsafe. You're increasing your liability. And if the state or the county is like federal government, you cannot sign your liability away. You can't.
Please don't think we're like the federal government.
Well, I am the federal government, so that's what I'm saying, but that's, you can't put up a sign necessarily and say, swim at your own risk. And the county not have any risk, just because you're saying, no diving. It doesn't mean that you still don't have a liability just because you put up a sign that says no diving.
Just because we have a liability doesn't mean we don't
Right.
build a pool because there's liability.
Right, right, but, and
we don't-
that's not what I'm saying, but I'm also saying that to have this diving area, you all are talking about building a whole half of another swimming pool to accommodate.
All I wanted, I guess, was if we don't put that as a part of the design, we'll never know how much it cost us to do it and how much we gave up. I won't know. If we already just say, I'm not gonna do it because I know it's gonna cost a lot and I have liability, then if that's our decision, then fine, but I don't know how much those things mean.
Yeah, I think it's fair you could put
I just don't know.
I think it's fair to say you can't put a number on it without putting it out to bid, but I also think it's fair to say it'd be a significant increase in price.
Whatever that means.
I have
agree.
seen community
It's an
pools
increased
take-
price, and I don't disagree.
I have
But it's
seen
not a
community
requirement.
pools
It would be
take
an optional
the far end.
bid spec that we could let them optionally design.
And
I'm
I
just
think-
asking.
I think you can find this design out there. I'm gonna continue to call it competition because that's what it's with, and that's what it's in my mind. I know the lanes that you're talking
I
about.
don't take offense.
Right, so I have seen community pools with the competition pool, and then at the very end, a turn, like a horseshoe. And it's still a contiguous water, and then you have the rope.
Understand.
The rope that divides it off, and it's still one continuous, and the diving boards were over here. So I will say, I mean, you're correct, but I will say, it's possible to take that, stay where you're at, and get that. I would just say, because I read all the social media, I read the articles, I read all the social media comments, and I have to tell you, from, childhood, remembering going to the summer pool, I mean, those 3 diving boards we had, they stayed full. They did not. There was a line for them diving boards from daylight to dark.
Well, our current
That's all I'm
pool,
saying, and I'm wondering if you prioritize, and I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, if you prioritize, are we doing this for the kids, for recreation, and then you put the seniors for therapy, the competition and the teams, you start doing what's A, B, and C, I'm just at a loss why we're going to take out, not put in diving boards.
well, I think there's one more issue, and I'll quit talking about that issue, but we had a pool that had a diving well and was used a lot. And we are giving that up in the new pool if we don't do it. That's all I'm saying. So we're losing something that we have had in a lot of years. That's all I want to make the point of, that it's.
Very few kids
question.
swim, Larry's team swims, very few kids swim, they jump all day.
Okay, let me ask you this, and Dallas,
That's why
I'm
the,
gonna ask you
that's
this.
what to be done. Be done.
If we decide to put a deep end and a diving board, will you support the additional funding?
I'll think about it. And I would support, here's the dilemma. All right, listen. We don't have enough money, we don't have enough time. So we make these decisions to fit the schedule and the budget, and I understand that, that's what we have to do. And I did vote for year-round swimming, actually, years ago. I voted yes on that resolution. What I don't want to do, the reason I struggle, Charlie, is that I don't want to build something that doesn't serve our citizens like I think they could be served, if for reasons of money or schedule, that we don't put together what should be put together. So that's the whole dilemma I'm in.
Y'all are earlier than this, you're in the design phase.
Yeah.
Why not just have the design as two different designs, one with and one without? And that way then you can explore whether or not it costs and how much more it costs. And then it gives you the time to hear from, your constituents and stuff. But I mean, to stay with your first design, and then there's a well already where the slides are that you can just incorporate and make it a little bit bigger. You don't gotta go to a high dive, but you can.
Well, we don't have a high dive now, so.
Yeah, you can modify that design and then get the cost differentials. You can, go bid on two different designs.
Or options,
Yeah.
one bid, but optional stuff. But Charlie, I will answer your question. It's a fair question. I mean, it really is. I would rather spend $4 million on a pool that did serve the citizens like I think they want and would like to have, versus spending $1.2 million on something that is not what we really would be proud of, and what we would always have to say, well, we don't have this and we don't have that and we didn't do that because of time or schedule, or budget. So to me, it's not a money thing, actually. We can get the money, it takes us longer. It'll take us 2 more years or 3 more years, I understand. So the money is not my reason for either supporting or not supporting. I don't want to take a shortcut, and I disagree with some of the reasons. We have liability, yes, and if that were my #1 priority, I wouldn't build a pool, period. But that's not the case. We haven't talked about a parking lot. That's another factor that we didn't add in, and I don't know if that's in our design or not, but that's an extra item that we need to talk about. One more, can I add a new thing? Sure. It's not been talked about, but it came to me and discussed since the meeting the other day. From a construction standpoint, multiple phases is a good idea. I understand, and I would support that approach. But what I would think in my mind, I would prefer to build this swimming pool as a standalone facility, not being physically attached to other stuff, whether it's other than the construction or the concession and dressing rooms or whatever. From a construction standpoint, I hate putting new construction right up against an older construction and adding on, because you're going to interfere with what's already there, and I don't like doing that. So I would like to propose, just a recommendation from me, that we keep these buildings separate for the other rec center facilities, a basketball or volleyball or whatever it turns out to be, physically separate, so that we can complete this and have it done and not have any interference when we do follow on with other recreational buildings and facilities. So they would be independent. I think from a safety and security standpoint, that would even be a help. But that's just a comment I have. And it involves only how we construct it or how we design it. Because we're designing this basically as a standalone building right now, knowing that we could add on, and that's fair. But I'm just thinking that I would prefer to add a new building for a different purpose rather than combining it into one building. But that's a thought I have. I don't think it changes the cost or the time, but from the convenience and construction of a multi-phase thing, I think that's a better solution. And I would agree with David's comments. I would like to maybe have a design that could incorporate the diving well, or whatever we want to call it, for better financial and schedule and discussion of whether it's optional or not, and not make it, don't make it a requirement. I don't think we were at a point where we could say we're going to have that. We shouldn't. I don't think we should be at the point where we say we won't have it. So I'm in the middle of that one. I'm done.
The only thing on the design, and the reason I brought that up, I mean, when you went through with that, I was just wondering myself, if you're gonna design something and it's gonna be for the next 30 years for the citizens here and the kids and next generations, why not design it with all the what ifs? Because right now the people who are doing the design, why not ask them all the what ifs? What if 15 years from now, and the only reason I pose that, what if we have an Olympic diver that moves in the community and wants to start teaching diving classes? I mean, I'm just saying, period. Or the kids want to use it recreationally. So why not, if you're going to spend $1 million plus, I think it's going to be 3 plus, but $1 million plus.
Why do you think it's going to be 3?
I just do, Mr. Harris, because I've done too much construction budgeting and had to present it too many times, okay? So don't take that wrong, but I know you don't, I don't know, I keep telling you that, that's my past.
We'll know someday.
Anyhow, you'll know someday. Point being is,
Right.
point being is if you're gonna go $1 million plus, upward 3-4 million, why not get all the what ifs? Why not get all the what ifs? Why not look at what if we did this, did that, and everything, instead of, I keep calling it a competition pool in the 3-foot area where you can walk in and, pine trees in the middle or whatever it was, it looked all nice, but I'm thinking, where are the diving boards, as silly as that sounds? And where's that area if you're gonna go into $1 million plus and 30 years down the road? And why I got that, according to what I was reading, you're gonna build the competition pool A, is that the A build, and the B is the other recreational area or whatever
Well,
it is.
if you want to label them like that, the
It's what
pool would be A, the cover would be B.
right, that's right, that's what
C.
was, that was what was reported. Competition pool, cover it,
Yeah.
and then the,
Wading pool
Right.
and the splash pad.
are you gonna build all the pools at once, or when I say pools plural, are you gonna build both of them at once?
How about the wading pool and the regular pool?
Yeah,
If the money's there. Now, that's another one of those situations where we've got to find out what this all costs.
Right.
Because money is a finite supply. Ultimately, yes, we want to have all of them. Whether they all get built initially,
well, I just, for some reason, I had a vision the other day of being in this room a year down the road and hearing, while we're moving the dirt, it's actually cheaper to move all the dirt at one time. While we're digging the holes, it's actually cheaper while we got everybody at one time, and while we're pouring the concrete, it's actually cheaper. I just, for some reason, I thought, maybe about 6-7 months down the road, I'd hear, while we're there, it's actually cheaper, we're actually saving this. I was wondering if we're going to possibly just power through and do it both.
depends on the money, and that's all I can say.
Okay, I try.
Let me ask you, I know we've heard figures of 12 feet for diving. Is that the minimum? Could we go less than 12 feet? Or-
I don't know nothing about that,
Well,
as far as, you.
Or it depends on how, I'm not the expert, but it would depend on how high your diving board.
Just
I have seen
one height
diving
on-
wells
What
9
is our
and
current
10
one?
feet.
What is the old one?
I
12?
believe it's 12 feet, which is why I use that in but our old pool, our pool used to have a 3 meter and a 1 meter, now we just have a 1 meter.
So
So
why
it
not
was
need
12
to be
feet, there's 12 feet at a 3 meter diving board. I don't know the specs
Well,
for that
the
either.
pool.
See, I kept calling it a tank because
Yeah, I think
we
that's
we had 3 diving boards. A small, medium, and we had a high dive, okay? So, and it was 12 feet, I mean, I'll never forget, that tank was 12 feet, or, oh, you keep calling it.
And the high dive is 3
Right.
meters, that's probably what you're referring to there.
Huh?
The high dive is a 3 meter
Right,
board.
exactly, 2 steps up or something, and the first one was 1 step and go, or jump off
The
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 board.
one
and
we
go.
have now is a 1 meter. and
Yeah, you step, that's the first step on the dive board and go.
The board that is at our current pool is a 1 meter board.
Right.
Okay,
But I
so
was just
what
saying,
I'm
we
gonna do-
had 3, you know, whether you have 2 or whatever, but if you ever had something down in the future, you'd have to have a higher board if you ever did something like
So
that.
what I'm gonna do is ask the designer for a second design that has a diving board in the area where the slides would be, I would imagine, would be where we'd have to put it.
No, because
No?
Not in the
you don't want a slide, you don't want a child come off a slide going 12 feet of water.
No,
I was thinking instead of.
no.
Well, we'll have to, if
No, no.
you do a contiguous water, we'll have to identify the area by
Okay.
one of
You
the.
don't want- you
don't want-
Yeah,
I'll let them figure out how to do it.
Yeah, there
I
you
just
go.
tell them-
Charlie, I think the way to do it is similar to what we have at our current pool and just make an L.
We have on that leg.
right, Larry, I think you're
Make an
right.
L with a well, and then you can separate it by lane, because I know you do have to have
Oh, yeah.
that. We have a little rope there now, we used to, and just have a rope there. I think that would be the quickest, cheapest, easiest way to design.
What I'm gonna do is just ask the pool folks to give us a design that includes a diving board. I'll let them worry about how they do it and how deep it's gotta be, but they'll know and I won't.
I would suggest just asking for the 1 meter board,
Yeah.
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 because I do know the liabilities for a 3 meter versus a 1 meter, and the counties and public pools that do still have boards, they're all 1 meters.
And I would agree.
That's correct, yeah.
And if we want to know how much the liability is, I mean, I assume we paid last year for liability for the 1 meter board we have. I assume we could look that up and have an idea
Okay.
of what that is.
We'll get a second design.
Correct.
I don't know if we can have everybody more on it, but we'll try to get it. Now, I do have a problem if we're saying we're gonna wait till August to approve the design, because unless we're gonna tell these folks, hey, guys, we've abandoned the idea of having a swimming season next year, we've got to get this thing moving.
I don't know that we need to
So-
delay.
Is it possible you could go ahead and hold a vote for option A with a condition that option B will be presented as soon as possible, that you hold a special meeting, and then put out both for?
I wouldn't delay either, Charlie.
What I may do is
What
just,
you can do is approve a resolution tomorrow that provides for a design as it's been currently given to you, and then a design with a deep end. And you've approved both of the designs.
and then I can go forward with getting the engineering and the costs.
Well, yeah, you don't want to hold anything up
Right.
if you can.
Well, why don't
Right,
you
we'll
put
do
the
that.
actual language in the motion though, so it has some bite,
Yeah,
that the design as presented, according to the design that has been presented at this time,
right.
An option.
with an option of looking at a alternative design. So that way, these people are already starting to do the drawing, and I think with an L, I don't want to make their job simple, but I think with an L, like Larry's talking about, it wouldn't be too much for them to take their CAD drawing and, you know, turn it out there. And then it's up to you to fit it on your property when you decide you got property.
Okay. We will do that, and I think that'll work. If we can, tomorrow night, we can,
I don't think we have to have that design
okay.
built in tomorrow night,
Anything else on the pool?
but we'll specify. I'm good.